All right. Now, the last thing that we were up to was we had our little ninja running around. He could shoot some shurikens, and I'm having some real issues with my computer, so there may be some freezes here. I'm probably not going to edit them out, but it does seem to kind of stop every now and then. I'm not entirely sure why. It may be that my solid state drive is failing. So what we've got here is our little ninja can run around. He can shoot and kill the monsters, etc. But there's still that glitch where after one shot, he will shoot to the right. That's easy to fix. We will fix that in a bug hunt. What we are going to do today is add in a little HUD, so overhead display with some lives and shuriken counter on it, and then make it so that he can move out of the room, and that'll be in the next video. This video here today, what you're going to need is you're going to need a sprite heart. So you're going to want to import that sprite. It is a sprite sheet, so you'll have to figure out how to import it in. Each heart in the sprite sheet is 16 by 16, and there are 5 images. So you should be able to edit, file, create from strip, and use what you know to import that sprite. There are 5 images here. The last one is an empty heart. All right. We can probably, actually, just for ease of use here, reverse this animation. That way, image 0 means there's 0 hearts in it. Image 1 means there's 1 portion, 2 is 2, 3 is 3, 4 is 4. That's going to make things a little bit easier later on. So I'll click OK on that. And what we're going to want to do is go down to Objects and create an Object Game Controller. You can call it Object Game Controller, Object HUD. Doesn't really matter. But what you're going to want is to have a Draw GUI event in here. So I'm going to change that to Draw. And it's going to be Draw GUI. Now I'm just going to move all this code out of the way for now. I've actually already tested this, but we're going to do it bit by bit. So rather than me making this up, I've actually gone through and tested it, and we're going to do a few different things in here. We're going to use a few different techniques. We're going to look at hard coding some values. We're going to look at repeating, using a repeat to draw multiple values. And we're going to look at also using a for loop. So the first thing we're going to write here is draw the HUD. That's going to, I'll click tick, and that'll change that to draw the HUD. Now we need to set up an offset. So we'll call this H offset. It's going to be offset for our hearts. Now what I mean by offset is how much is the gap going to be between each heart that we draw. So we're going to have it set at 17. For this first one, actually, we don't actually need this, so we're not going to worry about the offset for now. We're just going to draw the 4 hearts on the screen, 4 empty hearts. So we're going to draw sprite, and we are going to draw the SPR heart. The sub-image is going to be 0. Okay, so we just want to draw the empty hearts, there's 0 things in it. The X is going to be 5, and the Y is going to be 3. Now we're going to repeat this code. And we're going to repeat it 4 times. So the first, we'll put a comment here. Draw the empty hearts. Now, the offset is going to be 17. Because the pixel is 16 wide, we don't want to just put it 16 because then the hearts will be touching. We want 1 pixel gap between it. So we're going to say 17. So 5 plus 17 is 22. 22 plus 17 is 39. 39 plus 17, that's going to be 49, 55, I think. Maybe 56. 56. Okay. So now, we'll just test this out and see what happens. So if we go into our room that we've got so far, and we put in Object Game Controller, and click the tick, I'll say no to that, and I'll hit play, and this should be in the room. It's currently visible. It does draw our hearts up there. Unfortunately, we want to draw it at a different scale. So maybe I will just set this, change this to draw event for now. It may mean we need to do a few things later on. So let's just test that. Okay, so we've got those empty hearts up the top there. So that's working, and you see there's like a nice little 1 pixel gap between it. You can change that value if you want to try different gaps between it. So try adding 18 to the first number of 5. The y value doesn't change because that's always the same distance from the top. All right, let's go back into here. So the next bit, I'm just going to bring that up over there and I can see what I'm doing, but this isn't the same, so we're not going to follow that. The next thing is draw the heart containers. Well, I guess draw the hearts. We will need to add to our object player ninja. We will need to go into the create event, and we're going to add in player health. Okay, so I'm setting mine to 14. Just because I want to test some values. I might put this down here. These are the 2 values that you'll need to add if you haven't already got them. So player health, player variables for HUD. Okay, so player health and player ammo. Those are the 2 things that we're going to need. So drawing these hearts, though, we need to set a heart offset because we're going to draw it a little bit different. We don't know how many hearts they have, so we can't just hard code it in like this. We need to do it a little bit differently. So H offset equals 17. We're going to remember that. We also need to know where to start drawing the hearts. We can't set X because that's going to move this object around the screen. So we'll set a variable called XX equals, and it's going to start at 5, like it did with this one. And YY equals 3, like that there. That way we can use these variables, we can change them, but it's going to put in the same values as up here. Now we can't just start drawing things on the screen in relation to our ninja, just in case the ninja doesn't exist. So we're going to check here, if instance number object player ninja is greater than 0. So as long as there's the ninja, then we're going to do the stuff inside these brackets. Now you've got to get these brackets right. These are, from what I've seen of students in class and looking around, the brackets are a big point of frustration. Okay, you're either using the wrong brackets, you're putting the wrong type of brackets in, the wrong facing brackets, brackets, parentheses, braces, chevrons, whatever you want to call them. Well, these are actually called, these are braces. Brackets are the square ones and parentheses are these round ones if we get technical about it. I just call them brackets, squiggly brackets, whatever you want. Make sure that you're using the right brackets in the right places. So in here, we need to know how many hearts we've got. So hearts equals object player ninja dot player health. Okay, so we're going to get the player health variable from here, and we're actually going to do a special calculation in GameMaker called a div. So let's think of, I'm going to open up Paint, and we're going to do a calculation here. So we've got 14 health, and we want to figure out how many hearts to be drawn. So each heart has 4 possible little kind of segments it can have in it. Let's say our maximum health is 16, and that's what we kind of set it to when we drew 4 hearts. So we've got 4 segments here, 4 segments here, 4 segments here, 4 segments here. So what we should be drawing is 1 whole heart, 1 whole heart, 1 whole heart, and then kind of a half heart over here. So what we should end up drawing, and I don't want to do that because that'll do that there. I'll just, yeah, that should be good. Is we should have 1 whole heart, 1 whole heart, 1 whole heart, and then a half segment. But to figure out how many whole hearts to draw, then what we need to do is a special calculation. If we go 14 divided by 4 to figure out how many hearts we've got, what's going to happen is we're going to get a calculation that looks like this. 14 divided by 4 equals 3.5. Well, we can't draw 3.5 hearts using the sprite system. We want to draw 3 whole hearts, and then we want to set it to a different sub-image over here. What we can do in GameMaker is use a function called div. So 14 div 4. This will say how many times does 4 go into 14 wholly. And so it's going to go 4, 4, 4. That's 12. It can't go any more, so it gives us the answer of 3. So what's going to happen here, hearts is going to equal player health, so 14, div 4. It's going to equal 3. That's what the calculation is going to come back as. Then we need to get the number of pieces. To get the number of pieces, it's a similar calculation, object player ninja dot player health. And we're going to use a function called mod 4. Now what this will do is give us the remainder. So 14 mod 4, we'll find out what the remainder is. So how many pieces didn't go in to this calculation here? So 4 goes into 14 3 times, but what's the remainder? There's 2. Okay, 3 4s are 12. There's 2 left over. So there's this nice little calculation that we can do, or this nice little function. It's a mathematical function. It's actually on this calculator, on this one here, on the scientific calculator. And I go 14 mod 4 equals 2. 14, I'm not sure I can do a full division, integer division on this, so I won't try. But this is really useful. Okay, when we get into doing Python stuff at level 1, modulo and integer division are really important in finding out and solving certain problems. So we've got these two variables now, hearts and pieces. So hearts in this case is going to equal 3, pieces is going to equal 2. Now I'm going to draw the hearts. So repeat, I'm going to repeat hearts number of times. So rather than repeating 3 times, because I don't know if there's that many hearts, or repeating 4 times, I don't know how many full hearts there are. It could change as the game goes on. I'm going to repeat hearts time. So if hearts equals 3, it'll do this 3 times. And what's going to happen is I'm going to do the same thing here. Draw sprite, except I'm going to use subimage 4, and I'm going to substitute in these values. So XX and YY. And then I'm going to go XX plus equals H offset. So every time it repeats, the offset is increasing and it will draw the next heart at the next location. So let's test this out because we can test this now. We don't need to worry about the pieces. It should draw 3 hearts. I've got my player health set to 14. Hopefully I don't have any errors here. Okay, so it draws 3 hearts. If I go into here and set this to 16, it should draw 4 hearts because 16 div 4 is 4. 4 goes into 16 4 times. If I went a higher number, I haven't done anything to stop this going a higher number, but it should draw 5 hearts now. We will make it so that we don't go over that, and we'll do that later in a little bug thing. So that's 5 hearts there. And if I was to go 12, it would draw 3 hearts as well. So we're going to keep it at 14 though. Then the next step, if pieces is greater than 0. Okay, if pieces is equal to 0, there's no pieces of heart we need to draw, so we can just leave the empty heart there. But if we are, I need to do a face cam video sometime because my expressions when I do this, I'm sure you'd love them. But pieces is greater than 0. So if pieces is greater than 0, we're going to draw the right amount of hearts in that last box. And we can just use the exact offset already because it's there. So let's go draw, sprite, SBR, heart. And we're going to draw pieces. That's going to be the subimage at location XX, YY. So by reversing that sprite before, we're now able to say if there's 1 piece, it's going to use image 1. If there's 2 pieces, it's going to use image 2. If there's 3, it'll use that. If there's 4, which it won't be 4, it'll never do 4 because that's a full heart. And that would be pieces equals 0. So if we do this though, it should draw the right number of hearts, which is 14. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So that's all working really well. Now we just need to draw the shurikens. Okay, now I'm going to hard code some of this stuff here, but I'm also going to do it a different way. So let's go draw the shuriken counter. So over here I've got player MO equals 6. And I'm going to draw this. I will just copy this code here. I'll keep this separate from the one above just to make it a bit easier to follow. So once again, if the instance number of the object player ninja is greater than 0, we'll just get this variable, MO equals object player ninja dot player ammo. So we can just use that variable as ammo instead of typing this whole thing out. And then I'm going to write a for loop. We need to set the XX and the YY here. XX equals, and I've got the value for it over here, 80, and YY equals 11. This was after a lot of testing. Now I'm going to write a for loop. A for loop will look really weird. And when we do some stuff at year 11 with Python, a for loop is actually going to look more like this repeat loop here. Okay, but it does start with the word for. The for loops in GameMaker are more like Java for loops or C++ or C# for loops. They don't really look like the for loops we would use in Python. So for, and we have an open parentheses. Now here we can just declare a variable, and I'm just going to use I for iteration because we're iterating or looping, equals 0. So for I equals 0. We're going to repeat for the number of times that we have ammo. So as long as I is less than ammo, we're going to repeat this loop. And then I plus plus. That increases I by 1. Now what is I? I is just a number, okay? It's just a number that we're going to use to keep track of how many times we're going through the loop. In this case, a for loop is probably not the best thing to do. We could just go repeat ammo times and do it the same way that we did that. But I would like you to see how a for loop works. For loops are really useful when you don't know how many values you need to loop through. And also you want to use something like I. So I think I do that. Well, actually I don't because I didn't write a for loop for this one. So I'll just go in here and we're going to draw that ninja star. I'm going to get this code here. I'm just going to bring it across. Don't worry about that. Put that out of the way. So we're going to draw sprite SPR ninja star at sprite 0. We don't want it animating because that is an animated sprite. XX YY, which we just said there. Then we're going to go XX plus equals 2. So this here, the offset is 2. I tested it out with 1. It looked funny. I tested it out with 3. It looked too wide. You can see for yourself. So if I do this with 3, I think the shurikens look too far apart. Remember, we got really big chunky sprites here. Oh, actually, they don't look too bad at 3. You can pick a different sprite image as well if you want. So if I want them to be on an angle, I can go 3 and it will draw them at a slightly different angle using the sub image. So you can pick one that you like. I don't like that one. It's kind of too blurry. So I'm probably going to pick maybe 4. Well, I'll just pick 0, which works really well. And it increases each time it draws it. So in this case, the first time through the loop, we're not actually using I anywhere, but we could. The first time through the loop, I equals 0. And then it gets to the end of the loop and it increases I by 1. That's what this does. I could go plus equals 1 to make it a bit more readable. And then it does the check. This is the check here. Is I less than ammo? Ammo is equal to 6. So yes, 1 is less than 6. So it does the loop again, but this time with the value of I at 1. Gets to the end, increases I by 1, so I is now equal to 2. Checks, is 2 less than ammo? 2 is less than 6, so it repeats it again. All the way up to until it's I is 5, and then it goes I plus equals 1, I equals 6. Is 6 less than 6? No, it's not. It ends that loop and it doesn't draw any more. So this is how a for loop works. We've got a repeat here, repeat a number of times, and we've just got the hard-coded bit at the top. So 3 different ways here to draw these sprites on the screen. And hopefully that makes sense. Learned a little bit about div, mod, and finding the remainder of something. We could have done it the easy way. We could have just gone and printed 16 hearts in a row, separated by little pixels, and just remove a heart every time. That's not as interesting. I try to do things here that are a bit more interesting, display things like they would be in a game. Okay, so in something like Legend of Zelda, you do have those little hearts and the quarter hearts that break down. Or in the original one, it might have been like half heart. I don't remember. So next video though, we're going to look at the views and switching the views around.